This isn't a normal episode of The Folded Note. This is personal, this is raw, and it's real. Today marks episode 100, and I'm not just celebrating a number, I'm testifying. I'm still standing, not because it was easy, not because I had it all together, but because God never left me. So today I'm going to tell you my story, the scars, the survival, the stretch, and the grace that carried me when nothing else could. If you ever felt like you wouldn't make it, then this is for you. Welcome to The Folded Note, episode 100. Still standing, my story, my scars, and God's grace. Welcome to The Folded Note. This episode is different. It's heavier, it's deeper, and this isn't a devotional, a mini teaching, or even just a message. This is my story, and it's time that I finally told it. It's not the cleaned up version, not the pretty, polished testimony with a bow on top, but it's my real story. One with scars, one with secrets, the one that includes abuse, loss, fear, abandonment, survival, and the kind of pain that you don't talk about unless you've walked through it and lived. But I'm still here, not because I'm strong, but because God never left. So if you're listening to this and your life feels like hell, if you're crying in your car or sitting on the edge of your bed wondering if things will ever get better, I just want to say, don't you dare quit, because I've been there and I'm going to walk you through it now. This is still standing. So, my story starts with brokenness, generational, deep, dark brokenness. My dad was in and out of prison until I was 5 years old. After that, he was locked up for good, serving time for murder. My dad died in prison about 35 years later. And my mom, she was broken too. She was raised by strong, loving Christian parents. From the outside, it looked perfect, but she was rebellious, hurt, and angry. And somewhere along the way, alcohol became her comfort. When I was 3 years old, she ripped me away from the only stability I had, my grandparents. And she moved me from California to Tennessee, and I didn't understand it then, but I lost so much in that move. Because what came next was pain, and years of it. I wasn't raised in safety. I was raised in bars. While my mom was out drinking, getting drunk, I was the little girl in the billiard room pretending that the chaos around me was normal. When I wasn't at bars, I was at a relative's house, my aunt's house, and that was worse. There was always physical and verbal abuse. I had to go outside and pick the switch that I'd get spanked with. And if it wasn't the right size, the punishment was worse. I was called every name you can imagine. I was told that I would grow up to be a whore, a drug addict, an alcoholic, in and out of prison, just like my parents. But even then, even as a child, I knew in my heart, no, I'm going to show you that I will not be what you say I'll be. And I wasn't just neglected, I was invisible. I would watch my cousins go to sports, Girl Scouts, vacations, all while I was cleaning, folding clothes, cooking, doing all the chores. Like some kind of Cinderella that they forgot was a human. And yet, somehow, in all of this, God was still reaching in for me. Around age 9, my mom dated a man who actually cared. He saw me, he taught me how to bowl, how to shoot basketball, play softball. He showed up every day after working to practice with me. But just like every good thing in my life, it was ruined. Alcohol, choices, chaos. My mom just somehow ruined it, and he left. There was another loss and another wound. And then came another man. This one was worse. He didn't love my mother. He didn't even like me. He drank, smoked, and he hated my presence. By my teenage years, I was shipped off to foster homes and in and out of the juvenile system. Not because I was bad, but because I was too much to deal with. I was too broken or too angry or too hurt. But what I really needed was to be held. But instead, I was passed off again and again. By the age of 16, I was homeschooling myself just so I could work full time and survive. I thought if I could just work enough, earn enough, I'd be enough and I would be okay. I met a man, he said all the right things, and I was so desperate to be loved, to be seen, to be chosen. I married him, but what I thought was love actually turned into a nightmare. I was physically abused, mentally abused, sexually abused. Yes, even by my husband, because rape can happen in a marriage too. I lived it, I endured it, but I survived it. I tried to leave him so many times. I remember once I went to my mother's house begging for safety, and she told me, "You'll have to stay with him because I don't know what he'll do." Even she was afraid of him. So I stayed and I broke. And I lost every piece of myself, one bruise at a time. He cheated on me constantly. I walked in on him in my own bed with other women. Women would drive past my house screaming for him. I fought physically with other women at red lights and parking lots, in stores, fist fights with women who were also with him knowing that he was married. It was chaos. It was demonic. It was a slow death of my identity. And yet, I had 4 children in that chaos. I loved them with everything in me. They were my reason to get up, my reason to breathe, my only purpose in a world that didn't make sense. And then came a trip to Honduras. We went there for his citizenship process, but then it was denied and everything changed. What was already abusive became something just plain evil. He raged. He controlled, he assaulted, he tore every last piece of strength that I had left in me. And when it came time to return to the U.S., I didn't even know if I was going to make it out alive. I truly believed that I was going to die there. My body was battered, my spirit was broken, but God made a way. And his parents, God bless them, helped me escape. And I made the hardest choice of my life. I left, I got on that plane, and I had to leave 2 of my babies behind. My 1-year-old and my 2-year-old. Screaming for me, my daughter was chasing the car as we pulled away. To this day, I can still hear it. Her voice, seeing her little feet run, and the sound of my heart breaking into 1,000 unfixable pieces. But my mother-in-law, God used her. She made a promise to me, and she said, "I will love your babies like they are my own." And she did that. For 16 long years, she kept that promise. And the pain didn't stop when I made it home, back to the United States with my other 2 children. It just shifted. I was mentally drained, emotionally scarred, and spiritually empty. I carried shame. I started drinking. I carried shame for drinking. I carried shame for being broken. Shame for not being able to protect my kids from everything. I was a mother trying to show up for everyone while secretly feeling like I was disappearing from the inside out. I worked myself to the bone. Double shifts, late nights, early mornings. I was missing my children's lives while trying to provide for them. I was in survival mode for so long that I didn't even know how to breathe anymore. I was surrounded by people, but I felt completely alone. I was stuck basically in a loop of pain, guilt, exhaustion, and performance. And even though I was functioning, deep down, I was still falling apart. In 2019, I got sick. I felt like the enemy had planned to take me out. I had surgery after surgery, IVs just to survive, being now malnourished, passing out, bleeding internally. I was literally dying while I was trying to keep everything afloat. And still, I had to be a mom. I had to work. I had to keep going. My body was screaming for help. And I ignored it like I had ignored my emotions for so many years. And then came the worst night of my life when I almost took my own life. I believed the lie that my children would be better off without me, that maybe this pain would finally stop. But God stepped in through the face of my son. The look on his face broke every lie the enemy had tried to plant. And that moment woke me up. I knew then, at that moment, that I had to choose life. I had to fight back, and I started fighting with every ounce of strength that I had left in me. And what happened next was something that only God could have done. And when you hit rock bottom, there's nowhere left to go but up. But nobody tells you how long the climb can actually feel. I had just come through the darkest moments of my life. And though I chose to live, I had no idea how to actually start living again. I didn't wake up the next day suddenly healed. I woke up heavy, but I was alive, and that was something. And the truth is, healing didn't come wrapped in pretty packaging. It came in the quiet, lonely mornings when I had to get out of bed, even though my body still felt like quitting. It came in cries of my baby, who didn't care if I was tired or depressed. She needed her mama. It came when I forced myself to walk past the alcohol aisle in the store whispering, "Not today." God began to whisper to me in ways that I couldn't deny. Not through loud church services or long sermons, but it was through the stillness, through the tears, through my children's laughter, and through the moments that I thought would break me, but somehow didn't. I started to hear him, and I mean really hear him. And I realized that he had always been speaking. I just hadn't known that it was him. I didn't have a roadmap. I didn't have a rescue squad, but I had God. I had my yes to him. And I had a mustard seed of faith, and it was enough. Little by little, I began to rebuild. My strength didn't come overnight. My joy didn't return all at once. But I kept showing up. I kept praying. And I kept trusting that the one who saved me would also restore me. And with all of that, I started to look at myself differently. No longer as a failure. Not as someone who was too far gone, but as someone who had been chosen. I was loved, I was redeemed, and I didn't need to be perfect to be powerful in God's hands. I just needed to be available. And that was the beginning of the climb. Pain didn't magically disappear. People still let me down. And my situation didn't change overnight. But I knew that I was no longer walking alone. I was walking with God, and step by step, He was lifting me out of the pit that I thought would be my grave, and showing me that it would actually be my platform. You know, there comes a point when pain becomes your fuel. When you're not just tired, you're fed up. And that moment came for me in 2025. I had spent a lifetime surviving, doing what I had to do, working 2 jobs, sacrificing everything, being the strong one, the dependable one, the one everyone called on, but no one would show up for. And now, with a 16-month-old baby in my arms and years of exhaustion in my bones, I finally said out loud, I am done. I wasn't done living. I'm not done living. Done surviving. I was done doing it on my own. Done pretending that I didn't need help. And done believing the lie that asking God made me weak or bothersome. I was fed up with missing out on my children's lives. Fed up with watching time slip away while I gave every ounce of me to a job, a system, a cycle that left me spiritually starving. So I quit. I laid it all down, not in recklessness, but in radical faith. I didn't have savings. I didn't have a backup plan, but I had a word from God. And when God gives you a word, you don't need a resume. You just need a yes. And that's exactly what I gave him. A full, no turning back, tear-soaked yes. And I launched my podcast, The Folded Note, without knowing who would listen. I started sending daily messages, the daily folded note, to teenagers and adults, pouring out scripture, prayer, and hope into phones that I couldn't see, believing that someone out there needed the word as much as I did. And guess what? God has showed up. The tears didn't stop, the warfare didn't stop, but neither did the peace. Neither did the favor. I began to feel something that I hadn't felt in years. Joy, purpose, and power. Not because of what I had, but because of who I was becoming. I wasn't just Nicole the survivor. I was Nicole, the daughter. Nicole, the warrior. The one who refused to let her past decide her future. And in the stillness of the unknown, God kept whispering that I've got you. And He did. And I began to see it. In the way that my needs were met, in the people who were impacted, and in the strength that I had to wake up and speak again. I saw God move and move and move. Not after I had it all figured out, but after I obeyed. And this is the part of my story where the tears start falling, not from heartbreak, but from healing, from final, real, true healing, from holy joy, from that moment when you realize I'm not just standing, I am still standing. And I'm standing on the promises of a God who never fails. So this isn't survival anymore. This is now restoration. This is what happens after you obey. After the leap of faith, after the dust settles and you realize that God wasn't just catching you. He's always been carrying you. Everything started to shift in 2025, not because of my circumstances, and not because my circumstances suddenly got easier, but because I stopped doubting that God would come through. Now I knew He would, and I expected it. And that kind of faith, it moves mountains. Since walking away from that job and stepping into my full yes to God, I've watched Him provide in ways I never could have imagined. I've seen bills paid when I've had no idea where the money would come from. I've seen opportunities open up that I didn't chase. They found me. And I've felt peace in the middle of chaos. That kind of peace only comes from heaven. My podcast, The Folded Note, started as a whisper in my spirit, and now it's a lifeline for people across the world. And the daily Folded Note, just one message a day, now reaches both teens and adults who are hungry for hope. My Bible studies, books, my voice, they're all being used by God to reach people who feel forgotten, unloved, or stuck. And I get to remind them that you are not forgotten. You're His. The enemy tried to kill me more than once. He tried to take my voice, my mind, my children, and my future. But I serve a God who restores. A God who returns what the locust ate. And now after 16 years of separation, my children from Honduras are back in my life. That pain I thought I'd never recover from, God is healing it day by day. My home is still simple. I don't have all the fancy things, but I've got something far from richer. I have purpose. I'm raising my young daughter in the presence of God. I'm writing truth, and I'm speaking bold faith. I'm standing in the gap for others the way I wish someone would have done it for me. I'm now 41, a mother of 7, a grandmother of 3, and I'm just getting started. I've walked through hell. I've cried in silence. I've wrestled with anger, heartbreak, and fear. But today, I walk in victory. Not because of who I am, but because of who He is. I'm not just still standing. I'm walking in purpose. And there's absolutely no turning back from that. And there's a reason the book is called Still Standing. Because I should have been gone. The enemy tried every tactic: abuse, addiction, abandonment, poverty, sickness, and shame in my life. But I am still here. Not just breathing. I'm not just surviving. I'm thriving. I'm standing. I'm walking. And I'm testifying because of God. So to the woman who feels like she's on the edge, this story is for you. To the one whose family turned their back, who feels like their strength is running out, or who feels like their hope feels so paper thin, you are not alone. You are not invisible. You are not too broken, and your story is not over. I was raised in pain. I was surrounded by lies, neglected by the very ones who should have protected me. I buried my tears, my dreams, and my voice, and I became a mother far too young. I said goodbye to my children more times than any mother should. I've been hit, used, discarded, and I've been silenced. But my God has never abandoned me. Even when I was in the pit, He was there. Even when I didn't see Him, He saw me. And even when I tried to end it all, He stopped the bullet and whispered, "You're still mine." And now He's using everything that the enemy meant for evil and turning it for good. My voice, once silenced, it now echoes across podcasts, texts, and pages. And my tears that were once hidden now water the soil of someone else's healing. And my past that was once so shameful now brings power to break chains. And this is the part where I tell you that you can get up, you can forgive, you can walk away from people who hurt you and still love them from afar. You can obey God even if it means walking alone. And you can live a life that's bold, healed, holy, and whole. You're not stuck, you're not finished, and you're not ever too far gone. I'm Nicole. I am a daughter of the Most High. I am a single mother, a woman who's been bruised but never buried. And I've lost a lot, but I have gained so much more. And today I'm still standing because He stood for me first. And to God be the glory forever and ever for that. I know this was different. And if you're still listening right now, I want to say thank you. Thank you for letting me be vulnerable, for walking through the pain, the moments that I didn't think that I'd survive, and the grace that found me in the dark. I don't share my story so people will feel sorry for me. I share it so that they'll see the power of the one who never left. Every scar has a story, and every battle has a lesson, and every breakdown was leading to a breakthrough. If this episode stirred something in you, don't keep it folded. Please share it. There's someone out there who thinks that they're too far gone, too damaged, or too forgotten. But God hasn't forgotten, and He can still use them, just like He's still using me. Until next time, stand strong, stand healed, and stand bold. And never forget, you're not hidden, you're His.